Thank you very much for being willing to take part in this. We're real excited to talk with you. And Mike, I'm always excited to pull as much out of your brain as I possibly can. So, Ash Avildsen, founder and CEO of Sumerian Records, and Mike Mowery from 10th Street Management. Thank you both for being here. So, Ash, I'll start with you.
Good, Mike. Mike Mowery, 10th Street, just fucking throwing haymakers, dude. I love it.
There it is, baby.
That's great.
So, Ash, how is the coronavirus lockdown impacting your 2020 release schedule?
It's made it hard for us to shoot music videos because we can't really do crews, and we have to obviously abide by whatever the state social distancing laws are. Some bands are sheltering in place together, which makes it a bit easier, at least, to do some content. But as far as everything we already had like in the can, in the sense that it's already recorded, we haven't really pushed anything. We kept Palais Royale and Ask Alexandria's schedules both on lock for May, and then it'll really just depend. We're not moving anything because of the virus in the sense of like strategy of timelines. It's really just because literally we don't have the master audio recordings finished to put out.
Was that something that was that a conversation? Was it something that, I mean, I imagine your phone was ringing, you know, how did that that decision to just stay the course come about?
Some managers wanted to push and wait for tours to come back and to be able to, shoot different content. And I was pretty bullish with my approach, just telling everyone, I go, guys, the only thing we know for certain is that for the next couple of months, everyone's going to be sitting on their ass at home. So that's the only thing we know. And the other thing we know is that they're going to be watching TV and listening to music. So we can either be part of the solution or we can make people more stir crazy and withhold entertainment from them. So in the words of the prophet Kurt Cobain, here we are now, entertain us. So that's what we did.
Gotcha. And Mike, you didn't have anything coming out at this time, but what is your perspective as a manager and from the artist point of view that is different from the label's point of view when it comes to releasing music, especially during a time like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument to be made on either side. I'm grateful that I don't have to have some of those difficult decisions. One of the reasons I'm excited to talk to a guy like Ash is for as long as I've known him, he seems to think differently than many other people. So if, I'm saying, let's look at, moving these things because of tours or whatever, I mean, he's going to have a label hat on, but he's worn so many other hats that, it's like, does the value of, as he just said, entertaining us make more sense than, okay, let's wait for a corresponding tour when really we don't have any clue when the tours are actually going to happen, right? There's things that are being moved or, that we don't know if they're going to happen or not. I mean, everybody's operating on essentially best guesses at this moment. I think as I have said previously, we've scrambled with the main artist I manage is Ice Nine Kills, and we had some content that, is ancillary that, so it's not a full album. It's not, I don't want to disclose what it is because none of the things that we've talked about have been announced yet, but this was stuff we were sitting on trying to make a plan during this album cycle to get out. And we're now reprioritizing because we've got it. There's nothing else that, as just as Ash said, like, let's get it out there. Let's give people something to pay attention to while they're, a captive audience, essentially.
Yeah. And just to, talk about on both sides of the coin, if it was a completely brand new band that had no base whatsoever, we might be a bit more reluctant. We probably would still, probably leave it up to the band at that point. But for bands that have an established base, I'm pretty firm in the belief that you should get it out there and be creative with how you can, create content to support the actual audio recordings. But the touring thing's tough because you just don't know. And even stuff with radio, like we're having some of our best radio momentum right now with Ask Alexandria. And I'm just curious what the reach is. Me personally, I listen to the radio in the car and I listen to playlists at home. I don't know if that's a reflection of the majority of music fans, but I literally virtually never put the radio on at my house. That's when I listen to playlists. And in the car, I pretty much never listen to playlists. I just put the radio on. So that's one thing that's kind of I think a variable in all this is what does a radio campaign mean versus what it meant, a few months ago. It still means something, but I just don't think it carries as much weight. I think playlisting probably right now is the most important thing for new music discovery outside of, just creative content that goes viral and having a hit song that everyone's, sending their friends.
So when you say that playlisting is the best way for new music discovery, but you would still suggest for an artist who doesn't have an established base to maybe consider pushing back and waiting. Is that because touring is just such a big part of getting to that new music discovery that might even happen still on playlisting, or is it unassociated? It's just so big. How do you sort of?
Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that it's the be all end all. I don't mean that in an absolute way. It was more kind of just conversational rhetoric. Like I think as far as like a generic way of new ears getting on your stuff, that's probably the most like plug and play version. Obviously, if you have a song or a hook that goes viral on TikTok or Triller or some, clever video meme that has, a needle drop in it, like and the music plays right after the joke and millions of people are sharing it. There's a lot of other things that could be this explosive kind of catalyst to getting a bunch of new people to listen to a song. But as far as the the by the book industry, plug and play scenarios, I do think playlisting right now is super valuable. That and then peer to peer stuff. So if you have popular artists posting on their socials about another band, which is something we try and instill with Sumerian as far as interlabel promotions of other bands helping put each other over. In the words of pro wrestling, put each other over means like help them get over with the crowd, help them expand their brand and reach. So
you must have dropped. Like a half dozen things there. I'm taking notes on. I'm going to come back to you later. But go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I mean, I was just going to say it's interesting. I mean, what I love about this time, right, is it allows us to, you and I have talked extensively, Paul, about like if we built the music business today without any of the history, would we do it the same way? And, now we're in this place where, I was talking about the charts with somebody yesterday and they asked what the band's sales were. And I said, really, I feel like we're almost at a point where nobody cares what the actual sales were. And, if I think back, part of the reason why I want a band to be on tour when a record comes out is, especially if you're on a support tour, if you don't have the fan base already, is, you've got a vehicle, you're in front of people, you can talk about the release, whatever. But really, it was about selling it, and it was all of the drivers that went along with that. If you were on tour, you could stop by and do an in-store. Okay, well, we've kind of pretty much gotten well past, there being any real steady stream of, in-stores available. And so, okay, if we go to selling something at the merch table, right? Like if I can sell 20 copies, that goes into my SoundScan, you do that times 30 dates, you got 600 copies, right? Well, as Ash will tell you, streaming is just as important, if not more, than those sales at this point. So,
well, especially because of the Billboard rule changes, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, and it really just allows you to like completely take that component out of it. So again, if you've got good songs, if you've got good content, if you've got all of the drivers that are ready to go anyways, the tour is sort of this, I'm not going to say it's completely antiquated, but it's like we base things off of that because that's what we've done as long as I've been in this business, is base things around tours. This might be this fundamental shift of us all realizing, yes, we need touring because it's an income driver, but, unless Ash has got bands in a 360 deal, he's not seeing the income from that show. So why does he care from a label's perspective, whether it comes out while on a tour or whether or not he can just make the best release strategy possible?
Well, that's interesting that you bring up the 360 deal, because I was wondering whether just the fact that the touring piece of the 360 deal has been so obviously impacted as far as label income for those labels that have the 360 contracts, whether that would discourage labels from doing 360 deals going into the future, or the opposite, because all the revenue has been impacted so more. Even labels that were before resistant to the 360 deals are going to be pushing for it more and more. What's your opinion on that, Ash? And you know, has your perspective changed at all in the wake of this?
In regards to 360s, I don't think anything's really changed. It's just business as usual. Some bands are going to sign them because you're getting in with them very early when they don't have a lot of proven track record and they're not really making money. And other bands, whether there's a pandemic or not, if they're already popular or they have, a lot of different options and offers on the table, then they can, have more strength in negotiating to not have a 360 component. But to me, the biggest determining factor in that is just how early you get in on a band and how eager they are to get a label behind them to help build their career with them.
Well, a different perspective, however, I'm curious, let's say a band came to you. I presume many bands have come to you and said, hey, look, we just got our next 6 months of income wiped out, right? So either let's jumpstart the recording process, which means you've got to kick money in, or, hey, can you give us a loan because there's going to be future income, but, your next royalty statement isn't until, royalty statements just came. The next one isn't until September, so does it allow you to say, hey, look, of course, I'm going to loan you some money, right? But I may want to be protected and participate in, a stream of income that you might not have had, whether it's touring or something else, in order to, be able to offer some of that support.
Yeah, there's definitely, look, the phone's, it's ringing off the hook with people looking for help. We were even going to shoot a funny video with, I love Bill Withers, God rest his soul, and Lean on Me is like the theme song right now for like artists calling their labels. Like, if you hear the song, the lyrics kind of say it all. And we were actually just going to sit here with a wad of cash and play the song in the background and shoot a fun video meme of like record labels with their artists during, COVID-19. But yeah, some bands are coming and asking, hey, I know, we're still on this album. Can we get the advance for the next record? Some ones are just asking for loans. And yes, and some of that will renegotiate to maybe extend the relationship, or what I think is the easiest way is say, look, you need more money, give me more songs. Go do some acoustics, do some covers, do some collaborations.